Hey everybody, this is Russ and Rose with Access Entertainment and Metalholic Magazine. With us today, Matt Brooks of Like a Storm. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, thanks, brother. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
Absolutely. As we mentioned a moment ago, you guys are currently out headlining the Digeridoo Destruction tour. How's all that going so far? You got a great lineup out there with you.
Thank you, dude. Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, this is our first nationwide headline tour, and one of the coolest things about headlining is that you get to choose the bands that you take with you. So, you know, we've got the guys from Ashes to New and Stitched by the Heart and Failure Anthem on the bill with us, and it's just been awesome.
Well, and conversely, you guys have been out on some amazing tours as the support act. A lot of bands would, give their teeth to have one of those tours, and you've had quite a few.
Yeah, we've been very, very lucky, man. We're very grateful, especially given that we grew up on the other side of the world.
Right.
We're very, very grateful for the opportunities that we've had.
Well, and now you and your brothers Chris and Ken grew up playing in different bands before you came together as Like a Storm. What finally united you as a band?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we all played in different bands, but we would always just jam together whenever we were at home. So it kind of had this cool organic feel where if two or three of us were hanging out, we'd just start playing guitar or drums or bass or whatever was around and just jam songs. And we just found that we had this natural chemistry. And after a while, it was like, you know what, man, we all want to do the same thing. We all love playing music. We all love writing songs. And we had this great chemistry, so it just made sense for us to start playing together.
Well, and it's funny because you guys are all multi-instrumentalists, and it made me wonder, was there initially a battle for who gets to play what in the band? Was Ken over there going, why do I got to be the bassist? Or did you guys sort of slide into your roles naturally?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Well, at different points in the band's incarnation, Ken actually started out playing guitar, and we had a bass player with us from New Zealand. And at one point in our lineup, when we were between drummers, I actually was our drummer. We played as a three-piece. We had a couple of shows booked, and we were between drummers, and we decided that for fun we'd just play them as a three-piece. So that's a great question because, even though Kent's the bass player and I'm the guitar player, we have had times where we've switched to different instruments. And that's kind of one of the things we love about music. It's so awesome to be in a band where you can play different instruments and it all just kind of fits together.
Right. Well, and fans always get such a kick out of that when they see people swap instruments on stage, and you guys literally have the ability to be the entire band. So that's kind of cool. And you guys always do such a great live show anyway. Like I said, I've had a chance to see you 5 or 6 times now just in the past couple of years, and you always own the stage.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, I mean, that's a huge compliment. We always grew up loving, bands that just had this kick-ass live show, and it was always something that we kind of aspired to. And one of the most fun things about being out on a headline tour is that we get to play for longer, and we get to do more indulgent stuff. We get to put slide guitar solos in, and we do a didgeridoo and drum and electronic drum jam. It's the most indulgent thing you can imagine. We love music, and we just love getting to put different stuff into our live set that makes it cool for our fans.
Well, and it's interesting because you guys are here in North America, but you come from Auckland, New Zealand, but you're playing an instrument that most bands don't with the didgeridoo in the set, which is indigenous to Australia. How did Chris pick that up?
We used to go to Australia every year because our grandparents lived there. And on one of those trips, Chris bought a didgeridoo. He'd always kind of been fascinated with it. And he taught himself how to play it in 3 days, which is
wow,
nuts. It's one of the hardest instruments on earth to learn. And as soon as he could play it, we just thought that was the coolest sound we'd ever heard. And so it's been this kind of evolutionary process since then of us trying to find new ways to work that instrument into our music.
And you've certainly done that on a number of tracks, and it sounds fantastic. And going back to Auckland, New Zealand, you guys moved to North America from New Zealand. Was that a family-related move? Because you didn't like pick Los Angeles or New York, obviously. So it always made me wonder, was that like a whole family thing, or was that directly related to the music?
Well, we're really lucky in that we're actually Canadian citizens as well as New Zealanders.
Oh, wow.
Our dad is Canadian. And so we always thought of Vancouver as being a great stepping stone between New Zealand and America. Our dream was always to tour in America. But Vancouver is such a beautiful place, and we always just thought that was a great place for us to kind of set up in North America and start playing here.
Nice. So I want to talk about the new album, Awaken the Fire, in just a moment, but I want to go back to your debut record for a minute, because I never realized this before. The End of the Beginning features Kenny Aronoff on drums. How the heck did that happen?
Dude, that was a dream come true. Kenny was a friend of Mike Plotnikoff's, and Mike was the guy who produced that first album, The End of the Beginning, along with a friend of his, Igor Koroshev. The two guys produced it together. And Mike is a very well-connected guy, very talented guy, and Kenny Aronoff is a longtime friend of his. So at that point, we didn't have a drummer in the band. And we were talking to Mike one day about, we should look at having someone play on the album. And Mike's like, well, what about Kenny Aronoff? And, I started out as a drummer, so my jaw just dropped open. And he's like, yeah, I'll give him a call now. I'll see if he's free. And Kenny was free, and he loved the music, and he was cool as hell. And one of the highlights, I think, of my career as a musician was getting to watch Kenny Aronoff record our songs.
Well, that's got to be fun, and to be able to say he's on our debut album, Like a Storm has sort of been dubbed a buzz band for a while now, but it feels as if you're really starting to come into your own this year. Does it seem that way to you as well?
Oh, well, thanks, dude. I guess the last year has certainly been a pretty incredible year for us. And I think what's the most exciting is that the music that's getting out there now, the music that's been played on the radio in the last year and the stuff that we've been playing live, that's really the music that we truly feel like is the sound of the band. So it's exciting to think that we've kind of hit our stride creatively at the time when the band is getting the most exposure. It's something that we're really grateful for.
Well, and I was going to ask you about that, because you guys have taken an unusual path so far. A studio album, 2 EPs, a double live record, and now the second studio album. How much has your sound evolved between the first record and this one?
I think, I think there's a lot of commonalities between the first and second album, but I think the main thing about the new album is that it was just really important to us to capture that kind of big, epic sound. We've always loved bands that had a cinematic quality to their music, and that was something that we really wanted to capture with Awaken the Fire. We wanted the big, heavy riffs to be heavy, and we wanted the more ambient stuff to really take you on a journey, and everything in between. So I think with Awaken the Fire, I guess our vision for the kind of music we wanted to make and how to get that music has become more clear over the years, the more that we've toured and the more that we've written the new songs. And I think Awaken the Fire is really the product of that.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic album. I always wonder this when I listen to a record, which one was the easiest to write. But my bigger question is always, what was the most difficult song on the album to finish, either from a writing standpoint or a recording standpoint? Because I know sometimes there's a song that, like, emotionally you struggle with, or in the production phase, you're like, you just can't quite get the sound where you want it until you take it kicking and screaming down to the wire.
Yeah. I could quite honestly say that every song on that album has parts of it that came together effortlessly, and every song has parts of it that we really had to work at, I think, one of the songs was Wish You Hell, because we had this guitar riff that Chris, our singer, came out with that we just loved, and we had this concept of Wish You Hell and the song that had kind of a Delta blues, almost voodoo sort of influence. And we just thought that was such a cool idea, but, realizing the combination of Delta blues with hard rock and then that lyrical twist, there was a lot of back and forth, and we wrote a lot of different parts for that song. And it's funny to listen to it now and listen to how simple it is. But what you don't hear is all the parts that went in that never made the cut. But that song also stands out as one of my favorites on the album because the intro music to Wish You Hell, which is that kind of, it sounds like an old Delta blues recording. We had this crazy idea that instead of sampling an old song, we were going to write and record all of that music ourselves. So it meant that we ended up recording with all these instruments that we'd never played before. So Chris played a resonator guitar, and I played a mandolin, and Kent played a jaw harp. And then the kind of the old blues guy singing that Wish You Hell melody is actually me doing sort of Samuel L. Jackson impression. and when it was finished, we sent it to our record label, and they're like, man, we love this song, Wish You Hell. Now we've just got to figure out how to get the rights to this blues song that you guys have sampled. And we realized that they actually thought that we had taken something from, almost 100 years ago and sampled it. So that was kind of a cool moment because we had this crazy idea to sort of recreate this music, and it came out sounding so authentic that our label thought we'd actually stolen an old song.
Now that's a real compliment. Now, a lot of modern rock bands focus on the dark or negative aspects of life to create sort of a broody vision of themselves as a band. But Like a Storm generally pushes into the positive. Is that intentional or just the natural state of the band?
I think our music, musically and lyrically, it's just a reflection of who we are. There's a lot of themes in our music that deal with, angst and loss and anger. But ultimately, I think we want, as people, just to end up in a place of, defiance and courage and acceptance. And I think the themes in our music just reflect the emotional journey that we've gone through with each of those songs. Never Surrender, for example, was born from a very angry place where we were at a point in our career where, it seemed like we had left New Zealand, we'd moved to the other side of the world, and it sort of felt like our dream was being held ransom, and it didn't matter what we did. We couldn't get out to our fans. We couldn't have our music released. And it was an incredibly frustrating position. And I remember one night lying in bed just feeling so angry about the way that things were turning out. And then all of a sudden I realized that, that anger was creating this sense of defiance and this kind of feeling like, screw those guys. We're never going to let anybody stop us from doing what we've worked so hard to achieve. And I just feel like that's a perfect example of our writing process. The original inspiration could be something negative, but ultimately it ends up in a place of something more positive.
You guys grew up in the digital era. There's Pro Tools. You guys even have sort of your own portable recording studio, which I believe is how you record a lot of your stuff. Do you feel that steals away any from the organic nature of creating music as opposed to getting in a studio, jamming things out, and recording an analog, sort of old school?
I don't. I don't believe that technology inhibits creativity. I kind of believe the opposite. And an analogy I always use is, just look at the number of technological advances that the Beatles, pioneered. And I don't think, anyone who's talking about the good old days of recording and things like that, I don't think you'd find a person out there who would say that the Beatles had been inhibited creatively by, multi-track recording or artificial delay that, John Lennon used so that he didn't have to double-track his voice. These things that have since become staples in recording. Right. At one point, they were all considered these crazy new ideas, and I always thought the Beatles were a great example of someone who could take new technology and use it to fuel creativity rather than seeing it as any kind of drawback.
Nice. That's a fantastic response. All right. So last question, just before we get out of here. Generally, you ask any guitarist, and he can pick apart, or she can pick apart the album and go, God, I wish I'd have done this there. I wish I'd have done that there. But let's look at the reverse, because you're a positive guy, right? What riff or solo or whatnot that you did on this record stands out to you above all the others that you did, that every time you hear it, you still get that little chill? Damn, I crushed that, you know?
I think honestly, it's the guitar solo from "Wish You Hell," and the reason for that is that I'm a huge Joe Bonamassa fan, and I really wanted the song, because the song has like a Delta blues influence. I wanted the solo to have a blues influence as well, you know, that felt like a legitimate blues rock solo. And when I hear that solo back, you know, I spent a long time on it, just trying to feel like I was saying the right things with the guitar. And when I listen back to it now, I'm super proud of it. So yeah, that would be the "Wish You Hell" guitar solo. I really felt, you know, I felt like I kind of broke through to a new place with my playing that I hadn't gone before. So yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Awesome. Matt, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with us. Be safe out on the road. The new record's fantastic, and I look forward to chatting with you in person when you get back to Boise again.
Thank you, dude. Well, honestly, thanks so much for taking the time to chat, and those were fucking great questions too. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
Thanks, mate. You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.